Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Reverend Doug McCusker. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fredericksburg. I actually have this Sunday off, so I'll be sitting in the chairs just like you in a few minutes. But I did want to take a moment before we begin to let everyone know that last week, it seems like a lot of people from the congregation came down with the coronavirus, with COVID this week. A lot of people. So I guess you could call that an outbreak, but we don't know exactly who brought it in and if everybody got it from coming to church. But for precautions, I recommend that those of you who would like to wear a mask to please do so. And I am glad to say that no one is seriously sick. It's basically like a flu right now. No one's gone to the hospital, and one person at least is already back to work. So we hope that it'll stay that way, but that's why you don't have to wear a mask. I'm not saying you have to, but just recommending it. Thank you and enjoy the service.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fredericksburg. We are situated on the ancestral homelands of the Rappahannock and Potomac tribes, and where enslaved people were forced to work on the land. We acknowledge that this land holds many histories, great stories, and the blood of the people. Good morning. I'm Kristen Tuxbury, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'll be your worship associate this morning. If you are joining us as a guest or a first-time visitor, we are glad you are here. You are invited to leave your contact information at the welcome table in the foyer. We look forward to getting to know you. Everyone is invited to fill out a card about a personal, significant joy or concern that they would like to have shared during the service. You may pick up and leave a card at the Joys and Concerns table at the back of the room. Is it still over there? Yeah. It's in the foyer now? Okay. It's in the foyer. And our pastoral care team will collect the cards and read them later in the service. Here at the UUFF, we strive to nurture learning, inspire spiritual insights, create compassionate relationships, and lovingly transform our community and the world. Please join us after the service for coffee and conversation. I invite us all to greet one another. People online, if you've muted your audio and video, please take a moment now to unmute so we can greet each other face to face.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, everybody.
Hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello, Ann.
Hi.
Hi, Ann.
Good morning, everyone observing the sick person policy online.
Good morning.
Go you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's so good to have you all with us today.
Good morning. My name is Roddy Bell-Shelton Biggs. I use they, them pronouns, and I have the pleasure of serving as your intern minister. This morning, our opening words are, I've seen the promised land. They were spoken by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in a speech in Memphis on April 3rd, 1968.
We've got to give ourselves to this struggle until the end. Nothing would be more tragic than to stop at this point in Memphis. I want to thank God once more for allowing me to be here with you. I left Atlanta this morning and then I got into Memphis. And some began to say the threats, or talk about the threats that were out. What would happen to me from some of our sick white brothers? Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Come, beloveds, let us worship together.
Please join me in reading in unison our chalice lighting words, which will be found on the screen. As we light our chalice this morning, let us wake up to this world we live in, this beauty and wonder, and its tragedy and pain. We must wake up to this reality.
That not all word have what we do.
However much of
or
little it is. We must wake up to the idea that our wholeness, our lives, are only complete as the lives of those around us, of those who are exclusively in a great web mutuality
of which we are a part.
are part.
In case you were not aware, unfortunately, our choir was very heavily affected by the outbreak. So today I will be leading you all in song. Our opening hymn today is number 153 in the gray hymnal, "Oh, I Woke Up This Morning." Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing. Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 I was walking and talking with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 I was singing and praying with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Good morning. First, I'm going to light our chalice as it did not get lit, so the Spirit is lighting it a few minutes late.
Thank you, Spirit.
So good morning. I'd like to invite all those who are young or young at heart to join us up front this morning.
Come on.
I see you.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. So feel free to have a seat, but somebody who doesn't want to sit down or who's already sat, I'd like somebody to get up and help me see what's in the Wonder Box this morning. So does anyone want to do that? Okay, well, let's go with these three right here because there's some multiple things in here and everyone's going to get to do something. So can you three join me up here?
Go ahead, Drake.
All right. Does someone want to lift it and someone else reach inside and see what we've got?
Good morning.
Can you get down there? So do you know what that is? Do you know who that is? Martin Luther King. Thank you. So you can go have a seat.
Well done.
All right.
We raise some smart kiddos around here.
We
I gotta
do.
say.
So in the Wonder Box was a picture of the MLK Monument in Washington, D.C. And I have 8 other pieces of paper. So does someone want to have one? Beautiful. So let's go here. I know you raised your hand a little bit earlier. Anyone else? Beautiful. Well, Chris and I can hold on to these. So why don't we start with the ones we have?
Okay, what have you got?
So I have the word leadership, Chris.
One of my words. So I have to get there. Leadership. Okay, so we're going to talk this. Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to talk a little about what Martin Luther King Jr. had to say about leadership. And there's a quote here that he talks about that you're not always going, so we're not always looking to find people who all agree with us. But what we want to do is figure out kind of what we want and help people follow that. Like, does that make sense? Yeah. So if I want you all to like mint ice cream, I might not just say, hey, you got to like mint ice cream. I'm going to offer you some mint ice cream and see how you feel about that. Right. And you might say, hey, that's better than I thought it was. Okay. Okay. So the thing is that there have been leaders in our lives who have done very small things, right? Or they seem very small, but later we realize how big they are, like Rosa Parks. Who's heard of Rosa Parks? Do you remember what she did? I'm sorry, Alice, do you remember what she did?
Or didn't do?
Pardon?
Or did it do?
Or didn't do, right. That's very true. What did people want Rosa Parks to do? But she said, You remember she was on a bus and she was sitting near the front?
She didn't move her seat when she was asked.
Exactly. She was asked to move to the back. And she said, no, I'm going to keep my seat here in the front. And that was a really, even though it sounds very tiny, that was a really big deal back then because of the laws they had about Black people and white people at the time.
Yeah.
So really, sometimes being a leader is doing something small. So what do you think you could do? What small things do you think you could do to be a leader at your school? Oh, Stanley, we're going to need that paper, bud. Okay. What do you think are some small things that you can do? If you hear someone bullying someone in your class, what do you think you could do, Drake?
I think I can try. I think I can try to stop them, but if I can't, I can tell the teacher.
Exactly. So you can stand up for that person by either trying to stop the bully or telling your teacher so that they can stop it. Yes, friend.
Marley, and I don't think they would be really nice. And if they were my friend, I wouldn't be their friend anymore.
Ooh.
Okay, you can tell them, listen, you can't treat other people like that. And we're going to have to, yeah.
So
That's pretty
do you want to
deep
see
stuff.
what's on one of our others?
Yes, I do.
So what's on this one? Can you tell us what that word is? Yeah.
Non-violence.
I
Non-violence.
think that's one of yours.
It is. So can I see this for a second so we can talk about it?
Thanks, Thomas.
So Martin Luther King Jr. did a lot of work around non-violence. So we've named some of it a minute ago. If someone's bullying, what's a way that you can be loving and non-violent towards that? So how can we talk to people, interact with people in non-violent ways? So yeah. Saying thank you.
Saying thank you. Yeah, good job, bud.
What else? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was just said was if someone's bullying your friends, don't go beat up the bully, but talk to them about how that makes you feel.
Nice. Good one, Drake.
Yeah. And let's get one more on here and then we'll go to our next one. Be nice to the bully.
Yeah.
So
So-
love them with kindness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You have one?
Say, please stop.
Ask them to stop.
Nice. All right.
And then if that doesn't work, you still be nonviolent and go to an adult to help.
Right. And get a grown up. Find the helpers.
So another one I have in my hand, Chris, is hope.
Hope. Oh, one of mine. And I'm going to read you this quote because I love it so much. What Martin Luther King Jr. had to say, what Dr. King had to say, he said, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. And what that kind of means to me is that we might not get what we want in the moment, and we might be like, "Wah, I really wanted vanilla ice cream," but we're not going to give up hope that we'll get vanilla ice cream someday, right? But no, I'm being silly now. So what are things that when you're thinking about, like, if you really wanted to do something in your life, who here has a dream about something that they want to do when they're bigger or now? Yes, Roddy.
I mean, I'm in seminary to be a minister, so that could be a dream.
Exactly. So Roddy is working really hard to be a minister. But if somebody says, I don't think you should be a minister, Roddy, should Roddy give up his dream? No. And I think we have a hand up over here. What do you have to say about hope? What's your name?
Destiny.
Hi, Destiny. What do you have to say about hope?
I think I'm gonna be a babysitter.
You're going to be a
Ooh.
babysitter. So we want to keep those dreams alive, right? And not, even if right in the moment it feels like it's not going to happen, we keep dreaming and we keep trusting in ourselves. Just like Dr. King kept his dreams alive and fought for civil
Yeah.
rights.
Well, I have another word here, Chris, and it's selfishness.
Oh.
So King did a lot of selfless acts, going out in the community, working in food pantries, leading civil rights protests, and doing it all for the greater of the community. So one of the things that it says that he did this because he felt a call to help the community. And so what are some ways that we might be called to selfishness in our community? So something that you can do for somebody else where you might not get anything in return. Yeah, Destiny.
Yeah, Destiny.
If a scooter broke down, you help fix it.
Fix that scooter. Yeah.
Anything.
And that's
Yeah.
very selfless.
So if someone gets hurt, help them out. And maybe they don't help you the next time if you get hurt. And let's get one more. Yeah. Ooh.
Committed arson.
So help stop the fire
Yeah.
if someone commits arson.
Yeah, you want to help put that fire out,
Yeah.
of course.
So I think we have a
That is
few
a very
more
selfless
words.
act.
So can you say, do you know what this word is? It's education.
Oh, education.
And I believe that's one of yours,
It
Chris.
is. I think Dr. King really believed in educating himself. In fact, he was so clever and he was so smart. He actually graduated high school. He skipped 2 grades, graduated high school, and started college at the age of 15. So he was very young, and he went on to earn bachelor's degrees and a PhD, very high things to achieve, because he believed that when we educate ourselves and when we know the history of things, we know what's going on, that helps us make better choices, right? So what are some things that you can do that help educate yourselves? What are things you could do so that you can be educated and really understand the world? What do you think? Do
Go to
you-
class.
Yes, Destiny, what do you think?
You can read books.
Yes. And you know what? It says right here, find books that interest you and make reading a part of your life. That is very smart, Destiny. Thank you. What do you, and what's your name?
Venus.
Hi, Vina. What do you
Venus, hello.
Mm.
Of course it is. What do you have to say? What do we do to help educate ourselves? So Destiny says we read books. Can we do our classes? Can we listen, find something that really interests us and learn about it? What do you think?
We can do math.
We can do math. Exactly, yes. So there are a lot of things, but mostly find out what you really love and really learn about it.
Science.
Science, yep,
So embrace one of the sources of Unitarian Universalism.
yep, that is one of our sources.
All right. Well, I have another word here, Chris, which I think is one of mine. So equality. So
That's a good word.
this is also one of our principles and one of our sources. So treat people equal. So what are some ways that we can do this? So one of the things that King said was, I have a dream one day that my 4 little children will live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. So based on who they are. So what are some things, and we've talked about some of them. So in bullying, stand up for people.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any others? Yeah.
Oh, and what's your name?
Kaya Jane, we could be really nice.
Be really nice.
Really nice, yes. Thank
Knowing
you,
that
Kaya
everyone
Jane.
deserves to be happy. Yeah, let's get one more. Be kind,
Mhm.
excited. Play. Yeah, so many ways to spread equality. All right, I've got another one here. Do you know what this word is? Love. That's
Love.
one of mine. So it's kind of self-explanatory. Things that King really talked about was love and building beloved community, meaning that everybody had a part of that. So one of the things it says here is that we can treat people with love when they treat us poorly, to use our energy to love others. So I think we've named all of those ways already, Chris. If someone's bullying somebody,
Yeah,
to love them,
Yeah.
to ask them to stop,
Yeah.
to tell them how that makes you feel. Does
So-
anyone have any other examples of how we can, yeah. Show love to your family and friends.
Yeah.
And I think we might have just one more word.
one more word.
And I
Just
think it's this one right here. It's faith.
faith. And that is one of my words. And the example that they show us here is that it says oh, now I forget. Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. And what that made me think about is sometimes when you're driving at night in the car with your mom and you can only see, 20 feet ahead because of the lights, but we have faith that there's something on the other side, right? So faith is knowing that we can get through things, even if we're not sure what the answer is, even if we're not sure how something is going to work out, we can still have faith to get to where we're trying to go. So does anybody, and Dr. King certainly had lots of faith that even when things weren't clear about civil rights and making sure that everybody had equality, he trusted that we would get there. So what are some ways that you can have faith? What was that, Stanley? What did you say? Yes. Okay.
Just say
Yes,
yes.
you can have faith. Amen. Okay. Yes, Destiny.
When I first tried to ride a bike, I fell down, but I kept going.
That is amazing. Thank you. That's a perfect example. So I don't know if you heard her, but Destiny said that when she first tried to learn how to ride a bike, she would fall down, but she kept going. And you know how to ride a bike now, right? Yeah. So I think that's a perfect way to end our talk of faith. Thank you, Destiny.
And I think it happened to you
It
as
happened to you
well.
one day. But do you ride a bike now?
Kind of. But I think that's a wonderful way to end this time together.
Yeah. And
So-
we'll have more conversations.
You rode a
That's
bike
good. You
here?
ride a bike here.
A big bike. So I'm going to give these to Miss Chris
Thank
so that
you.
she can take them into our class. And just remember, all those words are things that we try to live every day. And sometimes we have to have faith to do so. We have to be kind to one another. We have to love each other, educate each other to try to build that community that we all can thrive in. So I think, Chris, we're going to sing.
I am. Are we ready? And are the words on the board yet on our screen?
They are.
So I'm going to invite everyone here to help me. We've sung this before, and I'm going to invite everyone here. And if I have any of our bigger kids here with us today, we're going to all going to head that way, and we'll divvy up when we get there. All right, here we go. You ready? You've got the light of love within you. Go on your way in faith. So let your light shine. The world awaits you.
Go
On your way in peace. All right. Thank you.
Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh, my Lord, oh, my Lord. What shall I do? What shall I do? Hush, like freedom, somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom, somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom, somebody's calling my name. Oh, my Lord, oh, Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Oh, my Lord, oh, my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do?
So as some of you know, and others have gathered by my forgetfulness of the chalice lighting, I'm one to forget and procrastinate. And I procrastinated on choosing a reading, but also because Roddy asked me to choose a reading from a Black voice, talking particularly about struggle. And I've done many readings up here from many different voices and many different Black voices, but not on the theme of struggle. And I was struggling with the idea of a reading that I felt good about reading on that topic from that voice through my voice as a white voice. And as a white woman, the population who benefited most from affirmative action, I have no ability to understand what that struggle has been like, particularly for Black women who historically research has shown do not see themselves in white feminist movements. So I chose this reading, and I chose it because it tells the story of two different characters. And whether I am conscious of it or not, my experience has been through the lens of the free bird in this story. So our reading today comes from Maya Angelou, a beloved African-American poet and author. This poem will be familiar to many, but it might take on new meaning for some in light of recent events. She uses the metaphor of two birds, one who is free to live as a bird should in the world, and the other who is caged. This caged bird uses song to cope with its confinement and to express longing for the day that it will be free. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wing on the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped, his feet are tied. So he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the cage bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze and the trade winds, soft through the sighing leaves, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn bright lawn. And he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still. His tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.
So we're going to do things a little bit differently today. So I'm going to ask our greeters to get the mic for some congregational reflection, as I want some insight to help with the sermon. So what I'm wondering this morning, especially being MLK Sunday and using the metaphor of freedom, of caged birds, what are some ways that we have been caged? And what are some ways that we are keeping that dream alive? And what are some ways that maybe we are building that beloved community? And so maybe 1, 2 to 3 people, if you could show something, and then there'll be a moment after the sermon as well for some deeper reflection around the idea. Anyone? Beautiful, thank you.
Thing that comes to my mind is it's just, we've had the last year to 2 years, we've had some really, really tough civil rights issues with people being restrained in an illegal manner. And the countrywide and worldwide reaction of people just saying, we can't have this, there must be a different way. And you read the news reports and you think, well, so what happened? Then you read another news report and you think, oh, that couldn't have happened. And then you read another news report and you think, good grief, what is going on? And you sort of work through it and you realize that people are just getting so upset. And that in itself, I think, although it's tough to go through, it's necessary. And we just have to keep hoping that every time something like this happens, we get a little better as a species and a little bit more understanding, and hope that next time there is some sort of misunderstanding, that it doesn't boil out into this horrible violence and the aftermath as well.
Thank you. Can we get one more? Yeah.
I've lived most of my life in various cages of being a caged bird, especially as an artist. One of the biggest cages, the fear of what other people would think about me if I expressed myself. And I feel a lot of people, experience that same cage, especially if they want to sing in front of people or express their art in front of people or dance in front of people. And I've lived in a lot of other cages, especially the cage of poverty, which, a lot of people look at you a certain way if you live in poverty, and it limits your abilities to be able to do anything. And a lot of people, like the Christmas play was so beautiful. A lot of people look at others and judge them But you know what? It's okay to express yourself. It's beautiful. And even if you're the first person out there on the dance floor because the music moves you, maybe some other people will join you.
So have faith that others will join in. So I want to thank the two that showed early, and there'll be that opportunity again in just a little bit. So stories are powerful, says Reverend Mark Morrison Reed, a Unitarian Universalist minister, theologian, author, and editor of several books, including Black Pioneer in a White Denomination. He says we can learn this from traditional Black churches and people of color as they come into our faith. The stories we tell and the stories we don't tell matter. And so on this sacred and holy day, all are invited to relive, rehear, and reconnect with the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. and his story for the first time or the 100th time. They say that freedom is a constant struggle. Oh Lord, we've struggled so long. We must be free. These are the words of the freedom movement anthem. As a queer mixed race kid growing up in the South, I knew the struggle was real. In 2008, I would have been about to graduate middle school and move to an inner city high school. To say that up until that point in my life, I'd had it easy would be a false reality, as I already knew the struggle. Too white for that group, too Black for another, too queer for that one, not queer enough for others. Oh, I knew the struggle was real. And during much of each day, I dreamed of belonging, of being free, being me. I knew the struggle, and I know the struggle still, though I'm not only dreaming, I'm called into action. I'm not sleeping through any revolution. Are you? In the last speech, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave, his voice shared a firm, earth-shattering, hope-filled, yet painful message about the fate of love and justice and his own time here on earth. King spoke and the nation listened. Now, whether they agreed with or liked or inspired by King's words is a different account altogether. In her reflection, the flawed understanding of Martin Luther King Jr., the Reverend Aisha, an affiliated community minister at First Parish in Madeline, Massachusetts, writes, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was a radical. He was called the most dangerous man in America by the FBI and had a 17,000 page FBI file at the time of his death. It wasn't just KKK members or those in positions of power who disagreed with or who hated him. As Cornel West explains in his book, The Radical King, by the time of King's death, most of the country didn't like him. There were intense FBI pressures, including attempts to make him take his own life. West reminds us the Black civil rights leadership was trashing him. The white establishment had rejected him. The young Black revolutionaries were dismissing him. Over the course of his life, King was not a man who was loved by most. In his lifetime, King's eyes knew and witnessed difficult days in a nation. He knew that beloved community was within reach, but was not yet a reality that could be named in full. King had a dream. a dream of justice, of love, and beloved community. In this dream, King knew that freedom, true salvation, and liberation would not come easy. He knew that it would take all of us working together side by side to live out his dream. And he knew that we would need to be awake to do so. There can be no sleeping through the revolution. In 1966, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the Well Lecture at our Unitarian Universalist General Assembly. King's lecture, titled "Don't Sleep Through the Revolution," is where much of the inspiration and the namesake for this service comes. In his lecture, King proclaimed many radical truths before a majority white audience, truths many might not have wanted to hear, but needed to hear. One such truth, according to King, is this: one of the great misfortunes of history is that all too many individuals and institutions find themselves at a great period of change and yet fail to achieve the new outlooks that the new situation demands. There is nothing more tragic, King says, than to sleep through a revolution. And when speaking on our Unitarian Universalist movements, Reverend Morrison Reed had this to say: the fundamental issue here is not race, but that we, UUs, are afraid of spirit. We get lost in our heads. What our movement needs shouldn't focus so much on race. It should be, what do we need to become more open to the spirit, more accessible in our music, our liturgy, our celebration, and our story? So we heard just a moment ago about some of those stories, those struggles, being told in poverty that people will look at you differently, seeing the news and being heartbroken time and time again. Reverend Morrison Reed continues by saying, what is it that we're inviting people into? What would it take to have more uplifting services where, and this is controversial, it didn't matter if we ran over an hour and weeping was a part of it? That would speak to us more deeply, and it would have more success drawing people in across the board. You see, King's revolutionary witness embodied an anti-imperial, anti-colonial, anti-racist, democratic, socialist sentiment, a revolutionary witness grounded in courage, unafraid of spirit, and above all else, a dream of beloved community. He was murdered before he could see his dream come true. King had a dream. We all do. And it's up to us to keep his and our dreams alive. So one way that we as UUs are keeping that dream alive and revisioning it comes from the proposed rewrite of the Article 2. It's that place in the UA bylaws which names who we are and who we want to be as UUs. It reads, love is the enduring force that holds us together as Unitarian, Universalist, and religious community. We covenant congregation to congregation and throughout our association to support and assist one another in engaging our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom and reason, hope and courage, building on that foundation of love. Love inspires and powers the passion by which we embody our values. embodying our value of love. What does it even mean, embodied love? There is a great power in love. And when we embody that power, we transcend into new realms of being. Our breath becomes the embodied breath of love, and our living becomes the embodied dreams of our ancestors. There is a great power in love, a true power that holds space for those who seek, long for, and receive such love. Yet power without love, in the words of Reverend King, is reckless and abusive. And love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best, says King, is love implementing the demands of justice. And justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. So it goes to reason, this type of love is not a love that we can simply name, but a love that we must live out. We must embrace love, calling us forward, pushing us deeper within ourselves, within our bones and our beings. A love that we must make known, not just by our actions, but by our words, our living, and our being. This, beloveds, is what the embodiment of love looks like. This is what the embodiment of love must feel like, being present in the moment, in our body, our minds, and our spirits. This presence overflowing out of our hands, out of our bodies in all those shapes and forms, into the streets, onto the hearts of others. This is embodied love. This is love on fire. This is love that will liberate and transform our living and the lives of others. Beloveds, this is love, the dream, the legacy of MLK that we are tasked every day to keep alive. Free at last, free at last. Thank God, may it be so, because we have been the ones to make it so. Blessed be and Ashe. So before our congregational reflection, we have a special piece of music that was created by a local Black artist here in the Fredericksburg area, where he's dancing on what was once the slave block in downtown Fredericksburg. So sit back, meditate, and let the Spirit move you.
In these times of hatred, misconception and chaos, misunderstanding and miscommunication, we must put our differences aside and come together as one tribe, one family, one love, peace.
And so, beloveds, knowing that we are tasked to keep that dream alive, I'm wondering what's bubbled up for you in this service? What's bubbled up for you in the past week, past month, or past year? Now is the time for more congregational reflection. We have one in the back and then in the front.
It's always interesting, I think, in February and for Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday in January, for those of us with young kids, personally speaking, because as my daughter has been growing up in the school system and learning about the history of our country, you know, I remember like a specific occasion where she just was kind of reduced to tears because she's like, why, you know, I don't understand why people would do that. Why white people would do that. What did we do? Like her heart was hurting for that history. And I think it's so easy for us nowadays to just kind of live in the moment and recognize the devastation of that past and how it still continues to linger. And sometimes I think it's easier to kind of like say, okay, you know, sweep it under. But when you peel back the layers, a lot of that fight and struggle still continues. It just exists differently. And now obviously there are way more avenues by which, you know, this kind of negativity and this like hatred can still be spewed, you know, not just in public, but now we have all kinds of online accesses. So, you know, it's the shining light coming out of this is that it's amazing. I love now seeing, you know, our youth, how they're growing up and they don't really learn black and white until later. I mean, you know, my daughter's in middle school and she didn't really learn black and white before. It was just kind of brown and peach and, you know, the shades of color. But as they get exposed more and more to media and go to school and all this other stuff, they start learning the differences. Yet, thankfully, so far, it's still not tainting them, but it's still just heartbreaking when you see like some kids who grow up in those bubbles, and it still is. But I think there's still hope because we have more young people speaking out about how, you know, hey, this isn't right. And it doesn't matter what my skin looks like. I'm still me and you're still you. And I'm going to love you for who you do or what you do, or not like you for what you do, not who you are. So there is still hope. So that helps kind of ease some of the heartbreak and burden to see it's growing.
I just wanted to say thank you for a beautiful sermon and for lifting up the more radical aspects of Dr. King's legacy. It's very important. And as a leader, I'm working in an organization that has a history of like white supremacy culture being embedded in it, like so many of our organizations. And I've been thinking about doing anti-racist coaching and to continue to undo that. And you sort of have reaffirm that in me, but I'm going to look for someone who also works with embodiment. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Bruce Baker, first time here. I'm just reminded of the words of the Native American activist Russell Means. Excuse me. His words were, if you take an animal out of the wild and you put that animal in a cage, it will spend the rest of its life trying to get out of that cage, no matter what. But if that animal has offspring, and they have offspring, and they have offspring, by the fourth or fifth generation, you can leave the cage door open, and the animals will not try to get out. Russell Means' conclusion was that whether you're talking about white Americans or Black or Native American or LGBTQ, in this country, we are all offspring of offspring of offspring of caged creatures. We don't really know how to live in the wild anymore. We don't know how to live naturally with each other. And we don't really know how to be free anymore. We're all learning how to do that once more again.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much for sharing.
During the offertory, you're invited to come forward and silently place a pebble into the bowl of water for any joys and concerns that you are holding on your heart. This Share the Plate Sunday, which means that half the cash that is collected in the offering baskets will go towards #Enough. The mission of #Enough is to educate and empower Black and Brown people, eradicate systemic racism and injustice, and the obstruction of our fundamental human rights, personal safety, access to education, and economic development. Some initiatives include educating the next generation, criminal justice, economic empowerment, civil engagement, voter literacy and education, community service, and mind, body, and soul. They believe inequality and injustice have had their time, #Enough, and their partner networks are actively working to wipe them out. If you are online, we encourage you to donate via text message or by visiting our website and using the online donation link on our homepage. We will post the text number and link on the screen. Greeters will also be coming around with baskets for in-person donations.
Go out and tell our story, let it echo far and wide. Make them hear you, make them hear you. How justice was our battle and how justice was denied. Make them hear you. Make them hear you, and say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white. And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Go out and tell our story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And tell them in our struggle we were not the only ones. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Your sword can be a sermon or the power of the pen. Teach every child to raise his voice, and then, my brothers, then will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men. Make them hear you. When they hear you,
May all that has been shared here and freely given help grow and sustain our ministry.
Good morning. Our closing words are from Aisha Ansano. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is a time when particular songs get sung. One of them is Lift Every Voice and Sing. It gets sung in school, in church, and at various MLK Day celebrations or over the course of Black History Month. It's a very, very powerful song, but it's often sung without context, and at times it's sung without a lot of intentionality. When you sing Lift Every Voice and Sing, do you pay close attention to the words? It's easy on a Sunday morning to open the hymnal and sing along without necessarily processing what we're saying, what the words we're saying really mean. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Bitter the chastening rod felt in the days when hope unborn had died. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. This song deserves to be sung with attention. It is a song that starkly names the horrors and violence of racism in this country, and it is a song that should make us uncomfortable. Uncomfortable with the history that it calls upon, uncomfortable with the fact that the struggle for racial justice continues and has not come quite so far as it should have by now. How can anyone sing the words, treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, without a deep, deep discomfort? So when you sing this song, will you join me in singing with intentionality? Will you join me in the deep discomfort that I will be feeling in singing those words? Discomfort with the pain and horror that those words refer back to, and discomfort with the fact that those words do not only refer to a distant history, but also to what is happening now. Will you commit to sitting with your own discomfort? And then, will you tap into that discomfort and do something? Will you lift your voice and sing until earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty?
Our closing hymn is number 149 in the gray hymnal, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing.
Lift every voice and sing till heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing skies, let it resound as the rolling sea. Sing us of the pain that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the that the present has brought. This is the rising sun, God, let us march on to victory. Let's march. Start with the one. Come to the days when hope, God, Lord, and died. Yet with a sin. Up to the it's your glorious Son. We have the Jesus has Lord. We have come drinking back the blood of the Son. After with the mighty glorious silence tears, the who has won us on the way. Thou who hast won, keep us forever in the path. And our faith straight from the place struck with the wine of the world we forget. Forever stand true to our God, true to our name.
Please join me in unison, reading our words for extinguishing the chalice found on the screen. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of love and service. May it be a catalyst for spiritual growth and social justice as we carry outside these walls into the world we live in, until we are together again.
And so, beloveds, while our chalice is now extinguished, the flame of love, justice, service, and liberation is not. May you be that catalyst of change, going out into the world to where we can finally say, free at last, thank God, thank Spirit Almighty, we're free at last. May it be so, blessed be. Thanks.